So I'd really like to know the difference between this weapon and this weapon. But telling from the damage numbers is quite difficult because, well, there's a lot of different things going on and changing my damage, and this just isn't going to cut it. Also, well, we don't really have the numbers here. I can go for skills and, I mean, maybe offense, but it's not really showing, so what can I do? Well, today I have the answer for you, because I have created the Stormbolt damage calculator. This is not Path of Building yet. And it only works for my build. Yet. But there might be more in the future if people actually are interested in this. I have put a lot of effort into this and I will explain how it works in just a second. But I just want to say, if you are interested in a Path of Building style application for Last Epoch with truly all the information you need and with an actually way better layout than this Google Sheet, then let me know down in the comments and feel free to subscribe or just like the video, because then I know you are interested in this, and then we will actually put the time into it to create a fully functional Path of Building for Last Epoch. I have talked with a friend about this and we both really are interested in this if there is an audience and if you guys really want it. So we can make this happen if the community wants it, because these tools need a lot of attention for the developer to provide tools like an API for the character import and for providing pictures so we don't have to data mine everything and everything like that. So if you're interested in this, let me know in the comments, and right now I'll show you how this calculator works, because, well, I have put a lot of effort into it. Quickly, I can show this was my first variant of the calculator, and this was fairly rough. Like, you had to put a lot of manual stuff in and the calculations were rough at best. Now this is the 2.0 variant with passive tree, active skill allocations, items with all the drop downs you need. You can just add it or add anything on the fly you need. You can add your mods, you can add the values. You can say I want a tier 7 strength here with 16 strength. And yeah, it works. It will calculate everything. There's a couple of small things that are very difficult to implement that go into the custom modifiers yet, but actually not. No, actually, if you're just putting your character in, there's nothing that goes into custom. I have automated everything, pretty much. There's just some inputs you have to do. Like, you need to put your idols in there and calculate them by yourself, because idols have so many mods that it was not really feasible to create an idle setup yet. It's just not really worth it. Also, you have to put like how many debuffs do I have on the enemy. But for example, armor shred is fully automatic. It is completely calculated how many hits do you have and how much or how high the armor shred value actually is. So this stuff is completely automatic. And yeah, let's take a look. You basically just pick your character here. Only Druid really has an effect yet, because as I said, it's, well, very much tailored around my build. Then you can put your passives in here. It will show in green when you put a number below the maximum, in red when it's the maximum, and 0 when you have not put any points in. The red cells are the cells that are calculated for damage. The blue cells are other cells. Here it shows if you do still have points left, and actually it is separated that Beastmaster and Shaman are at the second part, but you still can put points in here and will calculate them. But since we're Druid, you cannot really pick these in reality, but they are calculated. Sadly, it is very difficult to get pictures into Excel sheet, into Google Sheet with working cells above it, so I could sadly not put a picture of the tree above these, which would have been my goal, but sadly it's not really feasible to do so on the Google Sheet layout. So sadly we have to deal with this, which is, I think, the biggest pain point right now. Also, the layout for the active skill tree is a bit scuffed because, again, it's very difficult to get these layouts properly into Google Sheets without like messing with massive structures where you have like very tiny cells and make it somewhat look decent. But yeah, this is not really feasible, so I have just put the important nodes here. You can pick them. These will be dropped down soon, not yet. I just haven't done so yet. Might actually, maybe it's done already when this video comes out. I might just do it after the video. So these will be drop downs then for how many points you can allocate into them. Then you have your nodes or your items. Items and unique items are somewhat separated. Unique items work by just putting the legendary mods in here and then picking your unique, and that will just put the mods here, and then you have to put the values of your unique manually. I'm sorry. But everything else is calculated normally. There's like some stuff like if I'm picking like Branch of Hallows, which is a two-handed, I can still run an offhand because I didn't feel like going through the hassle of taking out, because it doesn't matter because you cannot do so in game, so it's kind of pointless. So yeah, here you can do both, but it doesn't matter really. Yeah, as said, you have to put these in here, like the modifiers that are specifically part of the unique that change the damage of the character. So I really try to put the full focus on the damage here because it's easily expandable, and at some point I could just do the entire thing with all mods, but it's kind of difficult in Google Sheets, so I want to separate it, just put out the idea for now, because defenses actually work very well here in Last Epoch tools right now. So right now you can use Last Epoch tools for defenses fairly well, and for offenses my calculator. And later on you can probably use the new tool for everything when the interest is there. Then we have, as I said, all the unique stuff. You can put all your uniques in here. These are manually added, so not all uniques are in here, but all uniques that I felt were important to the build or like had some use case. So actually not everything is in here, and if you want to add something that is not in here, then you will have to use the custom modifier. But again, these are like most of the stuff is in here, like Peak of the Mountain, Decayed Skull, like even uniques that we are not really using but do have value in some situations. Gloves, some of the more useful ones are there. Boots, well, Foot of the Mountains are there. And like Relic, I have put some in there. So there's a lot of them. Some of the layouts could be better here, but it's well restrained or restricted due to the layouts above here. But yeah, there's some finicky stuff that could be better, but this pretty much explains everything you have to do. In here, aside from the custom, you should not really put anything in here, because this entire thing is riddled with formulas. There's no formula protection currently, so don't just write anywhere. Anyways, you have to make yourself a copy, so you can't just screw up mine. But like just go create a copy wherever it is. Bit data, create a copy. There, create a copy. And the other thing is just formulas all over. So if you want this to work, don't write in cells you should not write into. So use the drop downs. Here, like this is pretty much the only space where you actually have to write in, just below the things. But here again, that's riddled with formulas. So I might at some point just mark the cells you can actually write into. As well as the attributes mostly are calculated. Dexterity and vitality are not, because they are not relevant to the character. In character level, you have to put in yourself as well, because that makes sense. And yeah, everything up here will be calculated. What these numbers mean is human maximum is like when you just cast through your tornadoes. Maximum means the maximum amount of tornadoes you can have up at one point. So if you have 8 seconds tornadoes and you cast through 8 seconds, this would be your DPS. then this is half of that. Because that's the average if you have the same time on human form and on beer form. You just switch the form on cooldown, then you will have half your tornadoes because you have half the time of casting tornadoes. So this is your average DPS when you switch constantly, or in the beer form. This is very important. Average DPS in the beer form, average DPS in the human form. So basically, I mean, I could make a transformed DPS somewhere too, because basically the average of these two would be your true average damage, like 9 million or something on mine currently. And beer maximum is when you cast tornadoes until they start running out, and then you go into beer. Then this will be your DPS, and this transitions to this over the course of 4 seconds, basically. So you start with this, go down over 4 seconds, reach here, transform back, then you are here, cast up, reach here, and then transform back and reach here. So actually it is kind of difficult to say what your true average DPS is, but that's basically the idea. Like you basically bounce between this, and this. So I wanted to make it a bit more clear of what the numbers actually mean. And yeah, that's pretty much everything about how the calculator works here. I do want to go into the technical stuff a bit for a moment, because I thought it was very interesting creating this, because I learned a lot about Google Sheets. And yeah, I do have a little experience when I started with this, and I've put about probably 60 hours into this, so I learned a lot. And this is still a very rough calculator that just puts a lot of things together, and would probably be done different if I had not have this at first. So this one right here just calculates a lot of numbers together, and stuff like armor shred, for example, or the multiplier that comes from your mana, for example, as well. Also the armor shred, like how many armor shred stacks you will generate on average, and how many like how much shred you have. So like you put the enemy armor to minus 18,000, and actually here this is a very interesting example of how strong some stats are and how strong some are not. Because when we take the amulet, for example, I do have a tier 5 armor shred on the amulet, and just removing this is not that much of a damage loss. Like if we'd put an increased damage in there, we would have like more damage like very quick. There's 7 here. It's actually, well, more. It's actually more or less the same, but this is because armor shred here is my highest value. So now if I wanted to test this axe, which does have armor shred on it, I could just replace the items here and then take probably a better amulet, because these nodes really are not that good, not as good as I thought. Because let's take a look at penetration, for example. If instead of penetration I'd have a tier 7 damage mod here, the amulet would be vastly superior. And that's because I thought penetration would be really good, but actually is not. Like penetration actually is not as good as a stat on this character, because we already gain so much. Because the character gains like half a point of penetration per attunement, so actually we are at 200% penetration. So 15% penetration basically is nothing. So this is a very interesting thing you can learn using this calculator, because you see how much impact you actually have. Like on these, you see how much flat damage do we get from the items, and then actually this is a bit difficult to compare, but basically you gain your attunement as flat and your strength as flat in beer form, so you already have like 260 flat damage or 270. So these 64 from melee is actually really not that much. So we could see how much damage do we gain from turning off Tempest Weapon, and here we put this to 0, and we see we barely lose 10% of damage. That's not that much. Yeah. So this is very, very interesting, because we can learn a lot of things about this build with this calculator. A lot of the stats, a lot of the priorities. I've had a lot of questions about which mod is the best, which one should we use? I need to know. And I was like, it's very difficult to answer because there are so many things affecting what is a good mod. And this calculator solves all of these issues. Then mod ranges were actually very interesting to calculate because this started out very small, just with the weapons. And then I was like, okay, I need to add the armors. And I need to learn where do these things point to. Like, I need to make formulas. I need to make lookups. I need to understand when my weapon has this mod. This needs to be shown here, and this needs to recognize the mod, and then take the correct value out of the correct sheet and the correct column and the correct cell and display it here so that you get a drop down that actually displays these numbers, which is very interesting. It was very interesting to do because I had to learn how to use VLOOKUP properly. I had to learn how to use indirects within VLOOKUPs and how to use multiple lookups within multiple lookups, and yeah, very interesting stuff, which I learned here. And actually here needs to be a minus in there, or we problems with some stuff later on. Here, yeah. Also, that shows there still are some issues with this, where some small details do not work sometimes in very specific circumstances. So, if you find bugs, Ooh. This is a very interesting example. Why are you here? Why are you here? Can you just be normal, please? Okay, thanks. That was weird. Yeah, but that was very interesting. And then one of the most stupid things I have made a short about this was getting this cell to just display this here, because I needed this to show what sheet I have to look at, and this was way more difficult than I thought it would be, because when you remove this and just say I just want this in here, then the apostrophe just getting eaten by the cell because it just wants to change how the mod range staff is displayed. Could I just put another one on? It works, right? This is good to know. That's actually work. But if this works, I will later on replace this, but I couldn't make it work at the time. And how I did it was by making this an error message and displaying the error message, which was crazy, but I do think the double apostrophe works, which makes it a lot easier in hindsight. But yeah, this was fun exploring. So one of the more insane things, and all of this is riddled with formulas and everything, so very, very cool stuff. And one of the more interesting parts, I do think, has been the changes of how I made these, because this is just the area where I pull all the numbers from. Very well formatted, as you can see here. And at first I was like, I need all these numbers, so I took the mods and was like, okay, 19, 20, and then we pull them down until we have 38. Nice. This was fuck ton of work, and it was a lot of work, and I did this for 5 sheets, I think, until I realized I should change this. And what I then did was learn another formula, which was the sequence formula. And the sequence formula just takes these numbers here and makes a sequence out of them. So I say the minimum value is 8, the maximum value is 15, the number of numbers I need is the difference between these plus 1. And then this one just takes the difference and the starting number and continues up to the maximum number. Which is a lot easier because I can now just put a lot of values in here and copy them easily, and I really need to work on this formatting. And it works. So this is a lot cooler to display. And here again, you can see that I do actually show the implicits just as the tier 7 mods all the time. So because I needed to display them somehow, and I don't remember why I put them tier 7, but yeah, I show them as tier 7. Doesn't matter. And yeah, this pretty much was how I made the remaining cells here. And then uniques were kind of interesting as well, because I had to work out formulas that probably show what the uniques do, while only doing that while having the unique equipped. So I needed a check of is the item actually equipped, and are all the mods in the right area, and are the numbers for the mods in the right area, and then I need to math them together depending on what the unique actually did. So these are a bunch of kinda similar, kinda very different formulas that just math all this stuff together, like the Maelstrom stacks, for example. Where's it even? Somewhere there. Maelstrom stacks. For example, this one looks for how many Maelstrom stacks do we have? Do we have Maelstrom active? And like, then we can change the Maelstrom stacks here and say, well, but I only have 15 Maelstrom stacks, so the damage is lower. You can say, okay, but I want 25 Maelstrom stacks, the damage is higher. Also, the Maelstrom stacks actually apply to our crit. So now I probably don't have a 100% crit chance. Take a look at the calculations. We see, well, crit is not capped anymore, I think. So this is our crit chance. This means that our crit multiplier actually is not as effective anymore. So our crit multiplier has a lower value if we are not crit capped. So you either need more crit chance or need to work on those Maelstrom stacks. Again, very interesting data you can get out of all of these things, because you can understand where your build struggles, why it struggles, and how to improve it. Like, as you can see, I'm very passionate about this, and I don't really want to make this a 20-hour video. So at this point, I think you understand how much work went into this and how much thought I've put into this. And yeah, I don't really want to make this for every single character. So I'd rather make one that works for all. So again, if you are interested in a proper calculator for Last Epoch that works for all classes, all builds, and everything, that does actually take all your nodes into account, like how much cast speed do you have to cast how many tornadoes that proc Stormbolts at which frequency, then let me know, because we can make it work if you really want to. I say thanks for watching and see you in the next one.